Welcome to the Beyond the Bucket Show, a podcast centered around optimizing all life's buckets. We all have buckets we are balancing: coaching, entrepreneurial ventures, family, passion projects, and health. Let's all take this journey together and become bucket fillers. And here's your host, Chris McSwain.
Welcome back to another great episode of Beyond the Buckets. We have a fantastic guest. Before I get to him, we need to make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow the podcast and tell a friend to tell a friend. A good friend of mine, Coach Alec Vucinich. Welcome to the program.
Appreciate you, man. Glad to be on here.
Did I say it correctly?
You got it.
I practiced it. That's the only thing I practiced for this podcast. But I need to ask you, give me a fun fact about yourself, something that even if that somebody knows you, they might not even know.
That's a good one.
And while you think about it, I'll just give a quick rundown. Coach Alec is the assistant varsity coach at Valley Christian and played at La Verne, and very great basketball mind, as you guys will see once we get into it. But want to get a background. Give me that fun fact.
Yeah, I think a good one. My first sport growing up was actually hockey till I was in about 8th grade. So grew up playing that and actually ended up with a lot of transitional ideas between the two that actually helped me out. Transition over to basketball.
Ice hockey or roller hockey?
Both, mostly roller growing up though. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I like that. I actually played roller hockey back in the day too.
Yeah.
It was actually like a fun sport for whatever reason. In that time, I felt like hockey was like very, very popular. And I think the Sharks helped with that. They were an expansion team. I'm a little bit older than you. But hockey is a great sport. Probably helped you with the physicality and stuff like that too. Yeah,
physicality, and then just like seeing the court. Like it's such a different, obviously, sport, but still 4 to 5 guys, whatever it is, and like seeing how guys move and got to lead guys with passes and like definitely help like IQ transition over to basketball.
Right, kind of like the Steve Nash, like the playing soccer. Yeah. You got to think like three passes ahead.
Yeah,
and so I guess that's where they call the hockey assist, because you're already looking for the next best action or the next play ahead. And I think soccer as well as hockey, you have to think about that. Now that I think about it, probably water polo. Probably similar, just seeing where the alignments are, and mostly everything is patterns anyway, right? So basketball is a pattern, and you can probably see it in transition, like, oh, we're in the right spot, or we're gonna hit them, or we're not in the right spot, and we might get beat. So a lot of parallels.
It's funny. One of the things I like, the biggest thing about that is like hockey, soccer, all those sports. There's such low scoring games that it's like, as a kid growing up, like me scoring was never. I didn't do it a lot. So it's like, that was like transition over to basketball. Like I like scoring points, like wasn't a big deal. I was like, in hockey, you're doing all this other stuff. Yeah. It's like transition over to basketball. I was like, scoring was cool, but I'm so used to doing all the other little things that get recognized in other sports way more. Basketball, usually you're hearing about how many points the guy has, not all the other stuff. For sure.
Yeah, I'm learning that as we go along, trying to teach my kid to pass. Yeah. Because at this age, they don't know how to pass and they don't know how to play make, and everybody's going towards the ball. So that's like a really hard thing. Even we're trying to probably do it with our high school kids too.
Absolutely.
Is trying to have them see the game in a different way. No,
definitely.
So tell me a little bit about your upbringing. Give me maybe a 2-minute, 3-minute backstory on you before we dive into the conversation.
Yeah, definitely. So as kind of you mentioned, assistant coach at Valley Christian right now. Before that, grew up a little bit south of San Jose and Santa Cruz, or Scotts Valley. Went to high school there, played basketball there. After that, kind of as you mentioned, played 1 year at West Valley. Transferred down to University of La Verne, and literally upon graduating and finishing my playing career, hopped into coaching and teaching. So literally at 22 or 23, I was a head coach of a tiny little private school that only had like 60 kids, but it was a super good experience being a head coach that young. Not sure why I was trusted to do it, but got to learn a lot of things that I don't know, kind of getting thrown into the fire there. And then after 2 or 3 years there, have moved over to Valley Christian with Coach Foff and really enjoyed that experience.
Yep. So you just finished year 2 with Coach, right?
Yep.
And how did you guys meet? Obviously, you got a job, I think, at Valley Christian. Yeah. Did that happen before, or was that kind of set up to where you were going to get a job and also coach?
Yes, coaching was first. So my first meeting was with our VP of athletics. So I met Coach Foff over the summer. We have a mutual friend. The guy I ran club for a long time.
Yep.
Was a good friend of Colin's from when he was at West Valley coaching.
Yep. Was that Bramlett?
Yeah, Bramlett.
Okay.
Yeah. He invited us to one of his open gyms, and I think he had pretty much an empty coaching staff at the time of the open gym. Bob spoke highly of me and kind of passed my name on to him. And I had told Foff that I need a job, that I wasn't going to work there and coach there, work at my old school, and then coach at Valley. So he kind of connected me with the VP of athletics, and there ended up being a position teaching math at the same time. So it worked out perfectly. And then I've now transitioned to full-time teacher, and now so it's a good transition for sure.
Shout out to our VP of athletics, Eric Schoenberg. Thank you for all you do. I know you're a loyal listener to Beyond the Buckets. So thank you for all you do in getting Alec a job, because Lord knows Colin needed it. So how was it growing up in Scotts Valley? I mean, you were a high-level player in your area, but it's kind of like a small area, if you will. What was it like for your overall development?
Yeah, so Scotts Valley itself is not a basketball town whatsoever. Like, we're tiny. Like, the school is, I think, 700 kids when I graduated, so it's just teeny tiny. Santa Cruz itself is kind of where all the talent is over there. So Santa Cruz and the greater Santa Cruz area, like, that was where all the open gyms were and like all that stuff. So like growing up, like, it was really nice being a small community, because I think my class, there was like 8 to 10 of us that went on to play college basketball somewhere.
Wow.
So in that little area, and all of us were able to played club together a little bit, kind of would get kind of together that specialty team every now and then for tournaments.
Yep.
But just a ton of open gym. So either Santa Cruz High or Harbor High always had an open gym going. So we're able to get a lot of work in and kind of just build off each other. And it's like I said, that class, we had D1, D2, and D3 guys. So it was kind of a level of us in a couple of years there that we're able to all kind of battle against each other. And it was a lot of fun. Like, a lot of guys I still talk to and have relationships with.
You might have been there when the girls were really good. Hart was the head coach, I believe, and he had his daughter, and a bunch of the girls that kind of grew up in the same area. And he had, for a 3-year run, I mean, you know, they were in the Open, I think, for 3 or 4 years. And he put together a really good program. And then obviously when he left, it kind of went downhill, but he had some really good players on that team.
I want to say it was my senior year, maybe my junior year, they beat Midi, which was like a huge deal, obviously, as good as Midi was, and still is. But yeah, there was a 3-year span there where they just had a ton of talent of girls that played together for like a long time together. And like, that is such a huge, obviously a huge deal. You know that when you have a group that's been together for a decent amount of time.
It's just so hard to keep that together when it's so small of an area. You know, you get this one group and you kind of write them out. I feel like that's kind of how Caitlin Clark was when she was in high school and in college. You know, she had this group. You had the one star player, but then you have all these other players that are around her that really facilitate everything that they do. Kind of, you know, similar to how the Warriors have everything centered around Steph and the gravity that comes with Steph, but then everybody else plays really well in that system, and players that may have not played well in another system, i.e. Jordan Poole with the Wizards this past year. So
now it's getting even tougher now, man. It's like it's so easy to try and transition and go to other schools and transfer. And it's like, even high school now, we don't have it, but it's borderline a transfer portal with kids bouncing around so much. So we see that with club basketball and all that stuff. It's so hard to even get a group together for one full season, let alone 4 years or more than that.
Yeah, I know. It's really hard to keep those groups together. I remember back to when, you know, I coached Noah Stapes and all that group, and to keep them together as long as we did was kind of a feat in itself. But that loyalty is not always there anymore. But the people that actually stick it out, like, if you're in a good spot and you like, the grass is not always greener. It really isn't. And if you can stick out the difficult and the hard part, you're going to be so much better suited to be able to handle the adversity when it does come, because, you know, just thinking that there's an easy way out isn't always the best thing for you. And, you know, I try to run towards hard things. I want to do hard things. I want to challenge myself mentally and physically to do those things. So when something does happen, you're able to kind of like, okay, like, I've already done some hard stuff. Like this morning, I woke up at probably like 4. I rewatched one of the games in here and I worked out. I watched our St. Francis game,
Oh
the one we lost by one point, and we had like a 10-point lead with like 2:30 to play.
Yeah.
And so I watched that. It was brutal to watch, but I worked out during it. And then I go to practice this morning, and I'm seeing some of the same things. So I'm like, oh, I need to correct that now, because I don't want to have to correct it, come January, February, when we're in a league matchup versus somebody like that.
Versus St. Francis.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now it's so funny that now that whole adversity thing, man, it's like basketball is such a safe place to be able to fail. Like if you fail in basketball, like you lose a game. There's really not a big deal of that. And it's such a good practice for kids to be in, and adults too, not even just kids, like of just to be able to go through adversity, be able to deal with that situation. And it's like, I think we see that in our workforce a lot nowadays of like, it's so easy to jump from job to job to job to job rather than kind of stay. And of course, there's absolutely reasons to quit and move on from things, and definitely those situations, but it's also good to deal with a little bit of adversity. Like it's healthy. So
100%. So talk to me a little bit about, for those that don't know, you must follow the formerly known as Twitter, but it's called X. You must follow Coach Alec on X, as well as Instagram, as well as YouTube, because he does deep dives into all things basketball. Also a correspondent to Fast Draw as well. So the things like I forgot when I finally figured out like you were just a basketball aficionado. I don't remember when it was, but it just clicked to me like, oh wow, he like really knows basketball. I think you like walked by our practice and you said, oh, I don't even remember what you said, but I was like, oh, he actually really knows the game of basketball. And from ever since then, like I've had just a high level of respect for you. If I haven't told you that before, I'm telling you now. And then like during the off season, I just say, hey, send me your best horn sets. He's like, how many do you need? I'm like, what you got? So he sends me our horn sets because we're changing some things that we're doing. And so how did you get involved with like video breakdown? How did you start posting it? How did you get such a large following? And I feel like a very short period of time, but I think I have a reason of why you have such a strong following, but I'll let you kind of talk about it.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear that one, but first off, appreciate that. Thank you. So that kind of started, I think the whole film thing started as a player. I think a lot of coaches, the people that get into coaching, are not always the best players. And I think that's kind of where I fall into. I was a very okay player. And like my IQ was like part of the reason I was able to get onto the floor. And like a lot of that came from literally just watching film. So like I remember in high school, like we as a group didn't do a lot of film stuff. So like individually that's how I learned how I could score more, was watching film. I was looking, I go, oh man, I probably should have taken that shot. I was open there. And then same thing defensively. Like I kind of
I watched your huddle clips. It looked like you weren't turning them down.
No, that's by my senior year, I figured out when I was open and when I could shoot it. So
like the first clip of it's like walking to a three after a transition. I don't know if you got the rebound or what, but it was just like you pulled up right in the center of the court. Like, I was like, yeah,
that's when I figured out I could do that a little bit. But and then defensively too, like I wasn't the greatest athlete. So, and like I mentioned, like I remember Santa Cruz, I had two kids, one ended up playing at Pepperdine and another one bounced around in a couple different D2s, but it was like, I was not the same athletes they were. So I would watch film and go, man, that guy doesn't go left a lot. So decided to push him left and did okay defensively. And kind of, that's how I made up for my lacking areas as a basketball player, was just watching film. And then as I began coaching, I ended up with access to Synergy. So huge shout out to Synergy and having every game possible under the sun to watch.
Right.
And this past off season is when I really kind of started the posting and the social media and that stuff. But it was literally just started as me. I was talking to Coach Foff, my boss, just kind of about some different ideas and strategies for sets and plays. And I kind of just started combing through stuff and then figured out I could download plays and figured out I could save it on my computer and then really easily can post it onto Twitter and then kind of can do some more different breakdowns and stuff like that. So the idea for that actually all started by me not taking a job as a video coordinator. So this past year, I went through kind of the job process or the hiring process of a video coordinator job and ended up not taking it, but looked and said, man, I have no like film background. And that's such a huge thing, I think, in the college realm and pro realm of like being in a film room and having that as a background in some sort of film. And at the high school level, we don't have that. Like we are our video coordinators. You, me, Coach Pfaff, Coach Eshoff, like all the, like we are our own video coordinators. So I don't think many people respect that. I've already put that on a resume that I'm a video coordinator because we have so many different hats we wear as coaches in the high school realm.
Sure.
So I tried to really just use that as a way to add to my resume and be like, hey, like I am pretty good with film, and kind of use the platform of Instagram, X, YouTube as kind of my platform of film. And then the following, man, I did not expect that. Like I started posting on Twitter first, or X, in like September, October. And that kind of, I think I'm at like 4,000 followers on there. And that was like, I literally did nothing, just posted there every day and would DM guys like, hey, do you like this? And they'd repost it. And then the Instagram, man, that one literally blew up in like a week. And then through March Madness ended up kind of blowing up. And it was just the same sets, man, like just sets and different breakdowns. And yeah, super blessed that happened. And I've been able to meet a bunch of great people through that, and went up to the Final Four this year and was able to meet with a bunch of those people. So it's been a cool experience for sure.
Yeah. So my theory is, well, it's not even a theory. I think it's fact. You're providing value.
Yeah.
You're providing high value for the coaches that are out there that are seeking that sort of stuff. And a lot of people don't have the time to be able to put forth, or the discipline, really. I mean, it's just, just getting how much film do you watch every day? Like even now?
Yeah, it really depends on the day and how much time I have. Like that was when I first started, it was like a super unhealthy amount, actually. Like I was literally the first 3 days, like I built a website with it too.
Right.
And that was, I think, 4 legitimate 8-hour days on my computer of film and website work and like stuff like that. And then now it just kind of depends on the time. Like through March Madness, like that was probably 1 to 2 hours a day, just because there were so many games going on.
Yep.
Now with college basketball slowing down, not as much. Probably on average like 45 minutes a day spread out throughout the week. And then NBA, I don't know, I don't dive into that as much just because they don't run as many sets. So it's kind of looking at different stuff in the NBA, but not as much right now with the NBA.
High ball screen.
Yeah, exactly. High ball screen and get out of the way.
Late shot clock.
Yeah.
Drag screen and transition.
Yep.
Lots of Zoom. Well, more. I think college runs more Zoom than the pros now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it takes a lot of discipline, but you're providing value to everybody else. I remember like when Zach Boisvert back in the I would say back in the day, but not that long ago, he would post all these things. He had all these breakdowns on YouTube, and it was so easy to gain access. And it's no wonder where he's at now. I forgot where he's at now, but I know he's been a lot of places because he put in a lot of work. And I'm just glad I know you now before you get too popular and you stop answering phone calls.
We'll see.
Once you rise the ranks, because such a young, talented person like yourself that is hardworking, that does stuff and not actually like for monetary value. It's just for the love of it, and you're gonna end up getting the monetary stuff later on and getting to all the dreams and aspirations you have, whether it be collegiately or professionally or wherever you decide that you want to go. But I think it's a great thing, and you motivate people like me. I'm sure you motivate Colin to make sure that he's on his stuff. I know Eshoff does the same thing for me. Like I have nothing but the extreme trust in him to be able to, I gave up the whole offense for him, because he's as good or probably better, and I really value his input. And so why wouldn't you not, put somebody in a position where they can, really blossom, and you look at things differently. And it'd be like, I draw some, you can see these plays up here behind. So I'll draw some stuff up, and he'll be like, oh, what do you think about this? I'm like, oh, okay. Actually, I like your way better. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, but you're doing it in a high level. Have you found, so the biggest thing, like when I first started doing this podcast 4 years ago, one of the biggest things was time management, because I would, just like you, when I first started, I would spend so much time. It was basically prep I would send out a whole list of possible questions to whoever it was going out to. Then I would have a pre-call with them just to have a chat, and then we would film it. And you had to do it on Zoom back then, and so Zoom, you would have to record it, and then if you wanted to put like the overlays, you had to put it into Final Cut or iMovie, and then I would also have to drag the audio into GarageBand and it was just like such a process. Now there's no prep. Like I just said, like the only prep I did was watch your huddle highlights, and then we just talk and we have a conversation. But I've gotten good at being able to just talk and string along a conversation, because like we've already been going for 20 minutes and it seems like we just sat down, right? But have you had to streamline any of the stuff that you're doing to be more efficient as your time becomes more valuable?
Yeah. So, well, first off, like I have so much respect for you and like what you have on that. That was like one of the first things I noticed about you and just the way you run your program, of just how organized and like dialed everything is. Like remember like first time I started practice plan, just how everything on that, and then film and just all the different ways you run stuff has just been so like one of the most organized I've seen in the coaching realm. Because I think there's either super organized coaches or there's the exact opposite of that. So,
well, thank you.
Yeah. For me, I'm kind of starting to do a little bit. I need to get better at it, but now there's so many different ways to schedule posts and things like that on Instagram and Twitter and YouTube, that I'm kind of trying to work through that and be able to just schedule stuff. And like, I've done it a few times of just like, hey, here's like 10 days of scheduled content. And especially outside of March Madness, like that was for me, like I was in there and I didn't mind it. Like I love being on the film stuff, but there's always 2-3 games, like Final Four and all that going on, that you not have to, but it's really helpful to have those plays already ready, right? Almost 2 minutes after it happens. Just because that's our culture, man. If I can get that play out the earliest, that's first people seeing it on my site or whatever it is, like that's added value for my followers. But that is definitely one thing I'm working on, is just getting a little bit more organized on that. But it is a process. It just takes me taking every Sunday, a couple hours a day, or even less than that, just to schedule all that stuff out. Yeah, definitely working on that one.
Yeah. What do you use to schedule it out?
Literally just on Twitter, X, I keep saying Twitter, and Instagram. They have it. If you post on your web browser, they have the ability to just schedule it. So like there's an option to just schedule it through the browser. So I don't think on the app it has that. But on the browser, I'm able to just do it on both of those and just schedule it out for a post Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And that way I can not have social media on my phone, because like that's one. I try to not even have the app on my phone anymore, just because notifications, and even with notifications off, like it's just, there's so much stuff on there that I try and just avoid it when I can.
So you might want to look at Hootsuite.
I've heard of that one. Yeah.
That's just basically a scheduling planner, and it could push it out to all the platforms. So whether it be LinkedIn, YouTube, I think they just added YouTube Shorts. I think the Shorts would be a good lane for you too. I just started doing that. And then obviously Instagram and X, it will go to that too. But I don't do any of my social media. So there's a guy named Philip, you know who you are. Thank you for everything you do. So he's the one who puts these clips together and sends them out. And that has helped me streamline, like, and still be able to do what I need to do. There's like a lot of good platforms too. Like when you start your podcast, Get Munch. That's a way to basically get all the kit clips captioned, and they put it through an algorithm where it pulls out your best 100 clips, and then you can literally get 100 clips from one episode if you want to, and just kind of sprinkle those out throughout the time. So we can talk about that.
So I'm not have you text me those. I'll forget those.
Yeah,
before you can leave.
We can talk about all that stuff offline.
Yeah.
But what has been the biggest challenge when it comes to doing all this sort of stuff?
Yeah, I think the beginning was the hardest, of figuring out what people wanted to see. And I kind of didn't even think about that. Like, I think that's what, especially on X, like that one was the one that took the longest to kind of get going and kind of build a viewership on there, but was trying to figure out kind of what my space was going to be on there. Cause there's a lot of people that post plays all over the place. A lot of people that post basketball content all over the place. It's super saturated area. So to try and find a way for myself to kind of stick out and be different and find, like, kind of, as you mentioned, add value in the coaching realm. That was the hardest thing. And I didn't really do much. Like, I just posted more and kind of listened to my following by what's got a lot of views, what got seen a lot. And then what's nice is, as you said, like, I don't have any money on the line for it. So I can randomly post whatever I want. Like, one of my actually biggest videos as of late was, like, I put a 2-minute playlist together of, like, Cam Spencer playing off 2 feet in the Final Four. And that had the most views on X. I think it was almost 1 million views on there. And then Instagram, I can't remember what it was, but like that wasn't a set. Like, most of my stuff sets. And then I posted this of like 2 minutes of a guy playing off 2 feet and jump stopping, which is one of the most boring things in the world.
Yeah.
But it is super highly valued by coaches. So that one was like, I felt comfortable posting it because I was like, I really don't care if I get 2 views, if I get 2 million views, it doesn't matter to me.
Right.
So that's kind of been the cool thing about this whole experience, for sure.
Yeah. One of the things that, well, it's good because you're not posting stuff of yourself. The hard part for me, like, one of the reasons why I do have a social media manager is because I hate putting out stuff of myself. Like, if it's with the family, that's the only, I mean, you probably see that. Yeah. If it's family related, that's when I post it. If it's not family related, I didn't post it. And so there was a student in my class this year, and he was your basketball manager, I think, on the freshman team. He's like, "Coach, you just posted?" He was like, we were literally in class. I was like, "Oh, I didn't know." And I was like, "Why are you on your phone, dude?" Yeah. But yeah, so I just don't like it. It's cringy when, to me, that you have to post out there. But and I have like so your another motivation is just starting. So I have my own personal website, but I have all these coaches resources that I just want to share. Yeah. Whether that be, I have like all the small sided games already filmed, and just, if I just post it and coaches come out and view it, I'm adding value, but it's just like, do I want to do that? I'm trying to figure out the right lane, because you also, like, you don't want to give all your secrets away either. Yeah. But so I'm working on that. I'm trying to have it done for, this summer. Okay. But it's going to have like a lot of resources and just multiple different things. But one will be coaching resources, small sided games, drills, stuff like that. And I already have it up on YouTube, but it's just a private link. Nobody, gotcha. I sent it out to my staff. I sent it out to my top flight staff so they can, if they need practice ideas or stuff like that. But yeah, it just, I don't know. I just hate that sort of stuff. Like, I'm a low key type of person most of the time, and posting just gives me icky feeling.
Well, it's so funny. Like, I didn't have my face or name on it for the longest time. Like, I literally brought it out for after the Final Four, because I went out and it was literally just called Basic B-Ball, and I had a logo that I made up, and like, that was it. And then there was like a lot of people that knew about it when I went out there. So I was like, oh, like, these people like don't know who I am. So like, and that was even talking to Coach Foff. He's like, yeah, you're gonna have to like tell people at some point, like, that's you, and like take a little bit of credit there for it. And that's been the most I've done, is put my picture on it and change it to my name. And that is the only place you'll see me on there. Cause now I'm the same way. Like, it's super awkward for me to even like try and do a voiceover on a video and like stuff like that. So like, I have like stayed away from that as much as I can, and don't mind it. I give credit to the coaches that have made those sets and all that stuff. Have been lucky enough to find them.
Have you talked to Chris Oliver at all? Because he does, something similar with basketball immersion.
I reached out to him early on and kind of had just a conversation, like a DM through X. And like, that was super short, but essentially just kind of asked him what he's doing and how he does it. But that's actually been super valuable on there, is like on X, especially, there's so many coaches that are willing to share information. That I think that's been like so much better than Instagram, of just conversations, like quick DMs between coaches about what they do. I don't know if you know Coach Hackenberg on Twitter. Like, he's pretty big. Yeah.
I use his practice plan template.
Yeah. But I've been able to like connect with him and about just how he runs.
Oh, excuse me. Not Matt. Well, I know Matt Hackenberg. He posts like all the time.
Yeah. But he kind of just broke down of just the way he runs all of his stuff, and just kind of how he's automated and done a lot of different stuff. And it's like, whether or not I use it or just kind of have the information, like, it's been super valuable how many coaches out there are willing to have a conversation.
Right. Like, and once you already cut it, you already have it in your library.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, he put out it looked like an old video today about this press break.
Yeah.
And so he's like, this is the only press break I've ever used. And then obviously he goes into major detail about 5 different steps. And then the 10th subtweet is, by this thing.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, that is what it is. He's providing a lot of value. And if you feel like you need more of that, like, you should buy it.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's for. I mean, we can't sit here and say that money doesn't matter. It does matter at some point, but there's times where, you're young still and not married. And so there's times where you can really, like, this is the time before you're 30 to really hustle and really make a name for yourself. And that's an exciting part. I think a lot of older people, they get upset for seeing a young person have all this time, energy, and effort that they can expend on something. Like, I'm just happy for you, because I think it's awesome. But you just look at all of the old ball players and they're talking about this and that. Obviously that is their job, but I just feel like they always feel like their generation was better. No, it wasn't. It just wasn't. And this is coming from somebody that did not play in the NBA. Like, it just wasn't. You're not seeing the things. And I saw Rasheed Wallace talking about how who is Steph going to guard? He's going to guard Chauncey Billups. Steph has had to guard Kyrie. Like, even on that last switch, with
2016.
He still had a hand up. Like, he was right there. Kyrie just made a tough shot. It was just one of those things. It's not like Steph is a bad defender. And I forgot who I was talking to this about. Like, when you're smart, you just play. But like Luka, he's not people would say that he is not a good defender. Show me where he's getting cooked. He's not. He's playing angles. He usually guards the guy in the corner, but he's tagging. He's in the deep hole, all that sort of stuff. And it's like, no, he is a good defender. You're not cooking him, and you're because he's big enough to stay body to body. And if you do get by him, you better be strong enough to be able to take the contact that he's going to provide too. So, yeah.
The Steph one's funny because it's like, I think that team was just so good defensively that he was the worst defender on that team. But it's like, and you're next to how many like all defensive guys. Like, they're so talented defensively that it's like, yes, Steph is probably the worst defensive guard. That doesn't mean he's bad. When you're playing next to Klay Thompson when he was in his prime of how good he was defensively, and Draymond and Iggy and like all those guys, like, he's not as good as them, but that doesn't mean he's a liability either. And like, that's so easy to kind of point to that. But it's like, that just means correct. He's the worst on that team, but that's still pretty darn good.
Right. And that they had 70-something points in a finals game versus the Lakers, So when you look at all that stuff, it's just, it is what it is. At the end of the day, it's all entertainment, but you just have to take it with a grain of salt. But I mean, that's why people consume it, because it's interesting. We kind of like to see the backlash. I mean, the last couple of conversations I had Asia Thomas. She was a Cal guard. That episode will drop a week before yours. But and then Coach Jules. I don't know if you know Julia. She works for Top Flight. But she used to coach at Sac City. She was the head women's coach there for a long time and won a lot of games. And now she kind of just coaches, and then she helps people recruit. But we were talking about, the Caitlin Clark thing and all of the scrutiny that comes with 2024. And she just wants to play basketball, so.
It's funny. She's so low key, and it's like, it's crazy. All this stuff she gets, she's super fiery in games, but like everywhere else, she's like super low key. And she's just gotten not even created, but she's like had all these enemies created out of either media or in games, whatever it is. And it's just been so crazy to watch. It's like, it's drawn eyes to the WNBA more than it's seen, I think, in a long time.
And there's no clips of her like mouthing off or getting into it. It's everybody else talking about her, which I mean, it has to be extremely annoying, because I don't know too many rookies that are slight of size. I mean, she's the average height for a WNBA player, which is 6 feet. And the average height in the NBA is 6'7", but the I mean, she's got to have like the thickest skin of all time.
Yeah.
And there's really been no players. And we talked about this with Jules, but a lot of the best players, like Diana Taurasi was like 26 when she won her first championship. And Maya Moore, I think, was the youngest at 23. But Candace Parker was 26. Asia Wilson was 26. So all these players, and she's only 22. She's got time to kind of get into that mode, and you can't just ask somebody to be what she was. And she just came off of playing 40 games last year.
Yeah. That's what's so crazy about WNBA. It's like, I think people forget that I just thought about that. I was like, oh, we literally watched her in March Madness. How many, 2-3 months ago? And then now she's literally in a full WNBA season and going to go through that with completely new teammates against the higher level, all that stuff. It's like such a crazy experience versus the NBA of that transition period those guys have. And still, even NBA, same deal, man. It's like how old are guys when they win that first ring?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a ton of 22, 23, 21-year-olds doing it. It's super hard to do that.
Like Luka might be one of the youngest.
Yeah.
Magic Johnson was young, but he won it in his first year, but he also had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Super impressive team, yeah.
Like you have a lot of great players with you.
Yeah.
And Breanna Stewart, I think she was 24 when she won, but she had Sue Bird, which is one of the greatest floor generals anybody has ever seen in any game. I do want to ask you, do you watch any of the women's college basketball? Because there's so many great coaches that run great stuff. Mike Neighbors comes to mind when he was at Washington, and he had Kelsey Plum, and he runs a lot of great stuff. There's just a lot of great women's coaches that run great actions.
Yeah, not as much as I probably should. It's like there's so much men's side that I and that's kind of what I grew up with, so that's really the side I stay on.
Yep.
But I have there's been a couple of them. Iowa, as they were going through the tournament, had a couple nice sets that I ended up putting together. But not as much as I should have, I should say. There's so much stuff out there, like you said, that it's like, and I think I'm curious how that would add or alter my viewership, if that would, because I know there's a lot of guys out there that are anti-women's sports, not anti-women's sports, that sounds bad, but don't watch it as much and see it like, oh, girls did that, I can't use that for me.
Sure.
I think basketball is one of those places, though. I think there's a lot of more open-minded coaches that they do see that, because it's like all the stuff that works. I have these NBA sets, college sets, all this stuff, and it's like, just the other day I posted a screen-to-screener box based on out of bounds that the 76ers ran. The 76ers did that in the NBA playoffs.
Like a basic.
Yes. And that's like a 5th grade play that they run in whatever junior high league you want to call out.
Right.
But it's like, same thing for any of those. So now it's definitely one I kind of want to dive into a little bit more, because I think that's so many more sets out there and just different actions and different ways to look at things, because it is different across all levels, but there are so many similarities that you can kind of parallel.
Yeah, there might be a lane for you. That might be another lane, where it's just, the women's basketball.
Definitely untapped.
They might not. I don't know anybody that's actually doing that. So you can give me an assist if you decide to start doing that.
Absolutely.
On your own. But there's just so many great minds, but the people that take the time to put it out there, I think that's super, super important. Is there anybody else that you follow that does something similar? We obviously talked about Chris Oliver, and Matt Hackenberg, but anybody else?
There is a decent amount of guys I follow on there, like Max Frontini, who is a European guy. He was kind of one of the first guys I saw doing it, that has a lot of good stuff, and was able to kind of connect with him early about what he does and kind of how he creates his content. But he has a lot of good stuff as well. And I'd say that's the one other guy that I have really followed, but there's every now and then I see there's new people trying to do it all the time. And I think the two things that get people bigger and growing in that, whatever space it is number one, being consistent in it. Just because it is a blank canvas that anybody can join and start posting stuff, but then also finding good stuff. I think it's so easy to post average or unusable sets. And that's kind of part of the reason I kept doing it, is I was looking at these and I'm who's ever going to use that set? It's either way too complicated or way too many actions going on or whatever it is. And people are just posting these, and it's hard. I think people, like you said, they want something that add value. So it's either that looks really aesthetically pleasing set, which I think there's kind of is that space for. And then also stuff that's man, I can literally use that tomorrow. I can use that baseline out of bounds in my game tomorrow with my 6th grade team or with my high school team, whatever it is. So I think that's like the two things that it really takes to start building some sort of following on that.
We as coaches, like, we get enamored with the sets, right?
Yeah.
But is there, like, what do you think if you've got, I know you guys try to get 80 plus possessions in a game. If you get 80 possessions in a game, how many of those are going to be just run out of flow, and versus how many are you actually going to run the set? And actually, like, what is the percentage of once you run the set, it gets you a good look? Not that the basket goes in, just a shot that you want with the person that you want shooting.
Yeah. So what's super funny about this is this past season, I did like analytics on all of our possessions throughout most of our preseason, and then like probably a good chunk of our league as well. I became a huge advocate for us never ever running a set. Which is hilarious. So like, so ironic that like, and I'm like joking with Foff about that, about like, I have all these sets or whatever. And I don't want us to run a set. Like the numbers on us running a set, the points per possession was like darn near close a point differential between us not running a set versus transition versus whatever other kind of thing, or some sort of flow offense, or kind of a conceptual offense versus like a hard set. So like this past year, I'd say maybe, and that was kind of a different group too, that we were super athletic and get out on the floor and kind of run. And that really was our strongest suit and press and stuff like that. But yeah, this past year, I would say maybe 1 to 2 out of 10 times we were running a set, other than blobs. I mean, blobs obviously running one every single time, but not super high percentage with this past group. And then even club, like a coaching club this year, like we very rarely run a set.
There's no sets.
But I think that's such a different space too. Like I think that's so good for kids to learn how to play and try and give them something to kind of they can grasp on. But running sets all summer, like no kid wants to do that. And I don't think it's good for their development either. So
right. Yeah. It's the hard part. You got to be, we're our own worst enemy when it comes to that, because we want to be smarter than the next coach. And it's just keeping it more simple. Like, I have all this stuff on my practice plans, or possible things to do. And now, so this summer is very simple. We're going to dynamic stretch 5 minutes. We're doing 30 minutes of defense, 30 minutes of offense, small sided games, basically 3-on-3, because our gym is being demolished and reset. And then we play. And we have like 15 minutes after to kind of go over blobs or anything that we want to do. But it's the same template every day. And I just want to make sure we get 30 minutes of offense, 30 minutes of defense, 20 minutes of small-sided from our offense, 3-on-3 on the strong side. And we'll do like the backside too. And that's pretty much it. Just trying to keep it very, very simple.
No, you said it. Like I think we get in our own way as coaches so much, or our own ego or whatever it is. And it's like you and I have not made any points over the last however many years it's been since we've been coaching. Sure, we might have helped and maybe set up a player, whatever that was, but it's like the players are the ones that are winning us games, and we're kind of just trying to put them in the best position possible. And if that is running a set, then that's awesome. If that's them isoing, great. I just want to see the ball go in at a high percentage, however that is. I think that's our job to figure out and try and take our own ego out of it.
Well, actually, I think you're wrong, Coach. We did get a lot of buckets this year in our men's league.
Yeah,
we
very
played
true.
in the men's league. So
Very true.
For those that don't know, we are the champions of the Zog 5-on-5 men's league. We did lose one game, which was surprising to me. And then I went all aggro, and we started pressing. We got back in, but you guys beat a team
3-on-5. That was our big one. Yeah.
What was that, like 11 p.m. game, and all the married dads were like, no.
Yep, pretty much. I think that was it. And then the three of us with our 6'8" big man. That's always helpful in an adult league of any sort, is having a 6'8" professional.
You, Eshoff, and
Tom. Yeah.
Okay, and that team was good too, right?
Yeah, they were okay.
I'm still mad that we lost the one game. I just and the way they like.
That was the one I missed, so I don't know. That's what I missed it. Yeah,
you were the key factor.
I don't know about that, but I know I wish I could have seen that. I heard you guys were pretty pissed after that one.
We did dog them in the championship, though. I think
was that the team? Was that the group it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And one of my friends used to play for them. He's like, "Oh yeah, I heard we beat you." And then I was like, "Okay, well, we'll see you in a few weeks." And then it was like a 30 piece in the championship.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. And nobody got injured, which is
tensions were high a little bit there, but
yeah.
Figured it out.
No, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think you were the youngest guy on our team, right?
Yeah. Sometimes still can pull that off.
Because Eshoff is, how old are you?
27.
Oh yeah. So Eshoff is like, how old is Eshoff?
Not
27. He's 7 years younger than me, so I think he's like 33, 34.
Yeah.
And then I think Schmidt, same thing.
Schmidt's close, and Schmidt and Shea, I think, were the two other guys, that are kind of close in that range.
Yeah. So, what do you think is the next like wave for basketball, based on all the stuff that you've been seeing, and what are some of the trends that most people don't really know, but they'll start to be able to see these in the upcoming season?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I have noticed through kind of college, NBA, not so much high school, but definitely kind of those levels. I think high school, there's a lot of old school coaches in high school that have ran stuff for a long time that works and kind of keep with it. But NBA and college, I think the biggest thing I've noticed is any sort of action involving three guys. So that's stagger screens. So you got two guys setting a stagger, one guy coming off it, zoom action with your pin down and DHO, double drag screens with some sort of action after that, whether it's a veer or whatever action past that. A lot of horn stuff. So out of horns with your guard and then your two elbows. But just a lot of 3-man actions with either people set in the corners or just spot up to shoot. So I think that's the biggest thing. And then with that is stacking those actions together. Like this past year, I kind of did a dive into that a little bit of all the different actions people are stacking with Zoom. And it's like Zoom is great on its own. But a lot of people are using Zoom to get into a stagger or Zoom to an elevator, Zoom to a flare, Zoom to all these different things that you have a great look off of that first initial Zoom, but plus whatever that second action is to create another look.
Right.
But I think those are the two biggest things. Like I said, any sort of action involving three guys, just because we see 3-on-3 so much with small-sided games. Like that's become such a huge thing in coaching. And then having shooters spotted up and spaced. And then, as I said, kind of stacking those actions just to get another look out of it.
Right. Yeah, we actually like most of our offense is based on those three actions.
Yeah.
I think we've seen a little bit, but when we reverse it and we go Zoom with the pin down, we'll basically ghost the pin down.
Okay.
And the ball handler comes off and throw back to the ghost screen.
Yeah.
And then you can also throw it down into the post. And then we always have a flare on the backside. And there's a lot of different options that you can do there. And so at first we were trying to just keep our posts lower, but now, I mean, all they have to do is be able to dribble the ball once and hand it off.
Yeah.
So it's actually not that bad for them. And it gives more spacing for the guards, because a 3-out 2-in scenario now just is too clogged. Just look at the 04 Lakers and Pistons series.
Yeah, well, it's funny now. Like we have our the big kid we have with us, 6'8", and he's trying to shoot threes a little bit, but I don't know if we like that or not. But I love it because I coach him for club too. I love it when people sag off him, because I go, dude, that's perfect. Go set a ball screen, and they're sitting in maybe drop coverage. I don't know what they're playing, but they have to be in drop coverage if they're going to stay that far off him. So it's like with you guys, with your two bigs, man, it's like you guys have so much action you can run with those two, with a defense that's going to be sagging way off them if that's how they're going to play it.
Right.
So now it's like I've kind of learned to love that of like, let's just run the 5-out, even if that kid's not going to be a threat from 3. It's like, go ahead and sag off him. It's going to be really hard to guard him in a pick and roll or whatever else it is.
Yeah. How do you defend all this stuff? Like, we played mostly matchup last year, and we're going mostly man this year. And we just thought like some of the toughest games that we had were a team, like if you can just straight up man-to-man and take away everything that they want to do, full court, whether it be half court, and just be solid, where it's so hard to just even get a pass off. And I just tell them it's very simple. Defense is very simple. It's hard to do, but all you need to do is, like, if I'm guarding you, I just need my body in front of you.
Yeah, exactly.
If I can do that, I am now playing good defense. I just have, that's what Luka does.
Yeah.
Just keep my body in front of you. I don't have to do anything special. I just have to do that.
Yeah.
And if you can do that at a high level, and it's very hard to, pass out of it, it makes it very difficult to get into your offense. So we just kind of, self-diagnosed what was the worst thing that we saw.
Yeah.
And it was like a full court man that
Definitely
couldn't, like our guards. I know we had good guards that couldn't shake it.
Yeah.
And now we're at the 28-foot line trying to initiate offense.
Yep.
Or we go dribble handoff into a pistol or something like that. And now we're just so far shoved up the sideline. I literally watched it today.
So, no, it's so funny. I think we try and we talked about this a second ago, like overcomplicate everything as coaches. And I think that's our biggest weakness as a unit of coaches, of even defense, man, of like, that is, you said it, you keep me in front of the ball and don't let them score. And you're now a good defender and playing good defense. And I think there's so many different concepts out there of defense. Like we have 95 different ways we can guard a ball screen, so many different zones, matchup zones, 1-3-1, whatever it is. And it's like, at its core, just don't let the person in front of you score. So however you do that, like just don't let them do that. But no, absolutely. Like just a straight up defense, even I would say the same thing. Like that was the toughest teams we played against was, I would say we played a tough matchup zone this year too, but the toughest thing was literally just a straight up man-to-man defense with like a basic ball screen coverage. I think it was like a soft hedge and a get back, but like nothing crazy, no traps, nothing crazy like that. It was literally just kids in a stance playing good defense.
Right.
So
like saying, beat me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And like even like the 2-2-1 press that everybody runs in high school and AAU.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't really provide pressure, and we run it unless you're really turning them over.
Yeah.
And like we tried it in our last game last year versus Lynbrook, and we weren't turning them over. They weren't uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because the ball handler, all they need to do is be able to pass. They don't have to actually dribble.
Yeah.
If you're playing that full court man, you don't have any choice.
Yeah.
You're going to have to make a play, especially if you only have one or two ball handlers and you take them away. Now that third player has to be that. But like on a 2-2-1, it's just reverse, and maybe get it to the middle, but you're inching it up unless they're just so far, like so superior athletes that it doesn't matter. There's teams like that where it's just our athletes are way better than yours, and you're not going to do anything. And we're going to do this 2-2-1 press back to a 2-3 zone, and we're also going to trap out of the 2-3 zone, and that's fine. But I just watched like all of the NorCal games, almost every division. I sit there and it's easy for me to just put it on in here.
Yeah.
And work out
going,
or when I'm on the Peloton and just tilt the TV and I just watch and it's like all those high level games, they weren't pressing.
No,
there was no press because you couldn't press at the highest of levels.
Yeah.
Now you guys did that, and when you're playing against a team that you're superior to, it does make sense to do that sort of stuff. But you can't go from like not pressing and then be like, oh, we're going to try to press them.
Yeah.
Like you have to have that in you already, and then you can always pull back.
Yeah. Now it's funny. Like NBA, you see it, man. There's no one full court's pressing the NBA.
Well, actually in the playoffs, they
do a little bit. Yeah.
They do a little
bit.
They have picked up more this year than I forgot the stat. But you'll probably find it when you go on your deep dive. But the pickup points have been way higher for a lot of the playoffs. Now, for people like Luka, it looks silly because it doesn't matter.
Yeah, he's just so slow, and I mean, it takes him out shorter shot clock. Like that's about it.
Right.
Yeah. But no, you see it like across all levels. Like I think I did this actually dive, and it was like from D3 to D2 to D1 to NBA, the percentage of like pressed possessions just gets shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter because it's so hard to press a good point guard.
Right.
And it's like, I think we know that as coaches, like when we have a good point guard, it's like, yeah, go ahead and press us. Like, I don't care. Like that kid's going to figure it out for us and like, we'll be just fine. But no, it's like, there's such an emphasis on being able to just sit and guard and doesn't matter what kind of defense it is. Like if it's a zone, if it's a press, whatever that is, but to be able to really apply pressure. And like, that's when our zone was good, our press was really good this year, is when we were actually able to apply that pressure. There'd be times we were in it and we're like, dude, we can't do it. Or we're not we're not actually pressuring those other guys' foot speeds better or whatever it is. It's like, well, we can't press this game. Like we legitimately can't apply that pressure. So there's no point to have that press.
And yeah, if you're not turning him over, it makes no sense to do it.
Waste of energy.
Because it's a waste of energy. And I look back on some of the teams that weren't great press teams. How many times do you give up a shot that was that you would have never given up had you just played straight up? And again, that's coaches getting in our own mind. Where it's like, no, we need to press, we need to turn them over. But if you're not turning them over and turning those turnovers into points, it is a net negative. You can't sit there and continue to do that. And that's why I just love watching games, whether it be ours or anybody else's, and you just learn so much. It's like, no, like just keep it simple. Just keep it simple. And we even tell the kids, first of all, it's been great. First couple of days, the gym is open at 7:30 and the gym is full. And we have alumni coming in there and working out. 2 girls that are playing Division I, and they're putting them through all this stuff, which is great. But they're not doing 5 triple combos like there's cones or toot, 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 toot. And they're not doing that in the game. I said, you know what you do in the game? Catch and shoot.
Exactly.
Can you do that at a high level? Because none of this stuff is going to even translate.
No, it's so funny to see different ways kids train, kids warm up, whatever it is. And I think that's one of us as coaches, like I think we always critique that. And there's definitely some validity in it. And it's like, that's literally, if you can catch and shoot, there's guys in the NBA making a lot of money that don't dribble the basketball, that they sit in the corner and catch and shoot and make threes and then do what we said, play a little bit of defense. And they're making a lot of money to provide for their family of literally doing just that.
Right.
And I think we try and just as people, like it's not even just as coaches, but kids, they try and overcomplicate it of trying to get past this guy. And it's like, if you can't get past him, that's okay. Swing it back. He'll get the ball back and hopefully he can catch and shoot and make a 3 and give us 3 points. Like we don't need to make it so complicated. And it's funny, like you asked me about sets, and my favorite set we ran this past year, excuse me.
I know it. Duck in for Diego.
No, that was a good one. No,
like the elbow rip.
The elbow rip. Yeah. An elbow rip, clear out.
Is that the one?
Yeah.
Okay. So I like that play too.
Yeah. I loved it because it was one pass. Really, that's the other thing. As sets get more complicated, there's way more things you can mess up. That play was one pass. Everybody get the heck out of the way and let our best scorer, a kid that averaged 20 points a game, go score it, and we'll call it a day. Easiest thing we could do, and it was pretty darn reliable. And even like running that for Z, same thing, our second leading scorer. It's like, do that for that kid, man. Both of those kids, and let them go finish, get an and one, whatever that is, or go ahead and double, and they'll kick out to a shooter in the corner, and don't have to think a lot. Pretty simple.
No, I agree. Yeah. And so I should erase all that stuff up there.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's way too complicated.
Exactly.
I forgot what I was going to say. There was a good point before you said that, what were you saying?
But just keeping it simple about kid, like the trainer, all trainers doing all the stuff.
So that was my thought. So I think there's a couple different workouts that kids are doing. One is a sweat workout, where it's just basically like, all right, I'm going to put you through, it's the trainer, I'm going to put you through as much drills because I need to, and the trainers are probably doing the same thing, where it's like, no, I know all this basketball stuff. I know how to do, floater, 4 ways to shoot a floater if I'm Gannon Baker, or how to snake the pick and roll, which I have never seen in high school ranks.
Never once.
So you're working on stuff that, but you know it because you know basketball, and so the sweat workout is like, all right, I'm just going to put as much things together, and there's going to be no rhyme or reason, and I'm just going to get to it. And then I would say most players are not focused on a tech workout, which is technical, where, all right, I'm just going to make 50 shots.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm just working on this. Where am I going to get my shot in our offense? All right. So we have a flare. All right. I'm going to make 25 flares on each side. That's a technical workout, something that's going to translate to the game. And then hopefully there's a decision component to it too, where it's like, all right, I pass you the flare. If I short close, you shoot it.
Yeah.
If you close out hard, get to the basket and, shoot a pull up, runner, floater, or just get all the way. If you have enough people, obviously, but I just think that we just need to be more technical with what's going on.
It's funny. Yeah. The more high level trainers, or I guess I should say guys that are training high level athletes, the simpler the stuff is, man. Like I have a buddy that trains a bunch of the guys up at University of San Francisco, and everything he does, he has a ball handling warm up and they do a bunch of combo stuff, but like that is literally just to kind of get your hands ready and kind of work on the handles and all that stuff. Once he gets into shot making and all that stuff, there's so many things that are 1 or 2 dribbles or less. Everything is just working stuff out of their offense. If it's off that flare and attack it, okay, and then let's add in a defender. Figure out what he's going to do and do it one-on-one with some dummy defense, whatever that looks like. But it is, at the higher level you get, man, it's just the simpler you have to be. Of you are getting paid, whether it's a scholarship or actual money if you're professional. And then at a high school level, it's just you want to get on the court, of just keeping it simple and put the little circle thing in the hoop and do that as efficiently as possible. And we try and get that so much more complicated than it has to be.
Yeah. And the basics are boring.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes for coaches.
Yeah, like exactly. We're just talking about it. Yeah.
You literally just talked about having not run a set.
Yeah.
Like don't run a set for us this year because it's not working, even though I've got all these great things in my mind. But dang, that's so hard. I mean, how do we get away from that? How do we just like not overcoach?
Yeah. I think having like a good support group with it, like, and I think Coach Foff and I like go back and forth with that. And I try to, as his assistant, try and hold him accountable on that a little bit. But it's so funny because he's such a great offensive mind, man. Like the amount of sets he has, and I'm like, gosh, that's like an awesome set. And then I'm like, that's not going to work, right? Like we're not going to be able to run that. And I think just having like kind of some accountability and just be able to look back and like be honest with yourself. Like, and I think we did that a lot this year of like after the game, we're just like, why did we try to do that? Like we made that so much more complicated than it had to be. And then like when we made our run in CCS, like it was super simple basketball. We really didn't run a set. We faced a couple zones and like we really didn't have a zone set. Like it was, if you're open, shoot it. Just simple zone set with high post kind of alternating. And that was literally it. And it worked all right for us. So we kind of saw that towards the end of the year, and it's like we kicked ourselves in the butt a bunch. We're just like, man, we made that way much more difficult than it had to be.
So I wonder, should the ATOs be like the high level stuff that you got in your pocket? It's like, hey, we got it in, run them in practice, and just have them ready to go. And then most of the time, if there's no stoppage in play, just kind of play out of flow.
Yeah, I've become more of a fan of that, and it just depends on your group too, man. And I was actually going to ask you that one, of just because I have seen you actually watch one of your CCS games the year before I got there, and then I've seen you coach the last 2 years, and then see the group you have coming up. You've had 4 very, very different groups. How do you adjust to that? Like, how do you adjust to having such? And you have no control, man. Like you can't recruit. Like you're stuck with who you got, and not stuck, but you have the girls you got. And then like, how do you adjust year to year on that?
Just meet them where they're at, know. And last year I couldn't go all in on them. They weren't going to be able to take it. And then, towards the playoffs, I, kind of ramped up the RPMs. But this year they know, and we only have one senior again this year. Yeah. But they were all on varsity last year. Yeah. So they should know what the expectations are. And so I didn't have, like, I wanted to win CCS and stuff like that, or we wanted to win CCS, but I just don't think the team was equipped to do that. Hopefully they are this year, a year wiser, a year better, a year under their belts in the system. And 2 years ago, those teams were that was a really stacked team. Yeah. And we had, 10 seniors on one group. And most of those kids were in the similar situation now, where we had, 8 sophomores on varsity, but we had some older kids to kind of like bring them along. Yeah. This group didn't have like a couple older kids. We had one that was really, really good at being a leader as well as a player, but it wasn't like 5 of them, so you just kind of got to meet them where they're at, give them what you think they can handle, and then, still stretch them, but don't wear them out. And that's at this, like my old players, came today.
Okay.
And, they're getting ready for their seasons. They're getting ready to go back to college in a few weeks. But they were like, yeah, right now, Coach McSwain has gotten soft, because if we would have did this, we would have been running 16s already.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was soft. I think it's smart.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't be able to handle that.
Yeah.
That group, they could handle that.
Yeah.
And I knew most of them since they were in sixth grade.
Yeah.
So, it's just, you just got to go with whatever you got, and you got to like really take inventory with the people around, like you said, and make sure that, all right, is this the best thing for them right now? And if that is the case, then you got to live with whatever the result is going to be. And I hate the fact that we had our first ever losing season while I've been there, but it has rejuvenated me to the point where it's like, no, I can't wait till we get back on top. So yeah, I'm excited for this next journey in this phase, especially with this group, because this year I think we should be okay, but next year, like, we're bringing back everybody again. So we'll see.
Well, it's funny too. I think it's so important, like, to tailor our expectations too. Sometimes, like, like you said, your guys' first losing season. I remember like watching you guys, and there was, I don't know, man, there was the St. Francis game. I didn't see that, but I remember talking to you about it afterwards. But it's like kind of like tailoring of like, how good was our success? Like, did we achieve as much as we should as a coach or like as a group? And it's like, sometimes that however many wins it was you guys ended up with is like, you guys might have maxed out at that. And it's like, you always want more, like you said, and win CCS. And like, that's how we felt last year when we lost in semis or something like that. And it's like, I mean, we might have peaked our group. And I don't think that was true last year, but it's like, kind of understand that as coaches of like, how good can we really get, and like be okay with that. Like, it's success isn't always winning a championship. It's like, did we get the most out of them we could have?
Yep. And I think we did. I don't think there's anything we could ask them more.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this year I'm excited. I'm just like happy to be in the gym. Like, that's why I think I woke up so early this morning. I'm just like happy to coach. It's so fun when you get dialed in and you got the group that is committed just like you are. That's when you get a fun group, and it's like, I really love this.
When they're able to match that energy you got.
For sure. And talk about the relationship that you have with Colin. It's got to be, for head coaches, people like you are very, very valuable, because we go through so much on the court, off the court, thinking about this and that, thinking about a whole program, and you guys can bring and shed a lot of light and a lot of wisdom to every day. How has that been for you, and what do you think you have been providing for Colin?
Yeah, it has been awesome over the last 2 years. I came in, as I mentioned earlier, of just kind of knowing him from a mutual friend, and Bobby spoke super highly of Colin and just kind of who he is as a coach, who he is as a person. And Colin has been huge in like my development as a coach. And that's kind of why I mentioned I was a head coach for a couple of years, but like I also knew that like I wasn't ready to be a head coach. Like, I knew there's a lot of stuff I had to learn from others. And like, that's why this was such a great opportunity for me, is to kind of fall under Colin and kind of all the different things he's been able to teach me. And it's like from all different levels, man. Like, he has helped me with just seeing what it looks like to really build a program, because we came in as a first year coming off an okay season from the year before. And I think there was 3 coaches before him in 3 different years. So like, it was very dysfunctional, and to kind of walk into a dysfunctional program and try and build it has been like awesome to do with him, and just kind of see what he's done to get us to win a CCS championship after 2 years, which is huge. And then hopefully kind of keep building and getting better. That from like the administrative side of it, and then also just the basketball side of it. Like, Colin has coached at Division I level, junior college level, high school level, has coached high level high school players, high level college players, high level players, just period. And to see kind of what he brings in every day of what it takes for him to match those guys, and then kind of bringing it to where we're at now has been super beneficial for me, just to kind of see from his lens and his perspective. And he is such an open book of like literally anything I ask the guy, he answers, man. And it's like, he has been huge assist to me of building relationships with other coaches at different levels. Like, he's gotten me on the phone with so many different guys, of just coaches at so many different levels, and gotten me in the room with people to have those conversations and kind of talk to them about coaching and all those things. So I've been super blessed to kind of be a part of that. And then second part of that, you kind of asked of what I bring to the table, and that's hopefully just assist them the best I can, man. Like I hopefully I'm bringing something good. And like I said, he is so open with dialogue that we're able to have conversations and disagreements and agreements and kind of come to see eye to eye on different things, which has been super healthy, of just being able to have that dialogue with him throughout the season. Of like, I did that analytics throughout the season here, and he like looked at me and he goes, you're probably right. Like, we probably shouldn't run as many sets, or maybe we should do this more or that more. And then getting into the game and us trying to do it is a whole nother story. But I think we get in the heat of the game and everything, nothing goes, I think, the way either one of us want it to go. So,
right.
But yeah. And I think each year he's been super open to what my role looks like, of where I'm adding value to. And if that's more on an offense side, defensive side, subbing, plays, sets, etc. He's just been so open to that, which I'm super grateful for, because I've been glad to work under him. And I know there's a lot of coaches that are a lot more closed than Colin is.
Right.
I'm curious to ask you, actually, being obviously we're in different shoes here. Like, what would you say something that an assistant coach is watching this? Like, what is something that you feel like is a way that an assistant coach can be their best assistant coach, I guess, for you or in general, to kind of add value to your program?
Yeah, I think one thing that I think of, if you see something that needs to be done, just do it. Don't even ask. Like, hey, coach, I'm gonna open the gym for you this morning. Oh, really? Like, just stuff like, just small stuff like that is just great. And then be a sounding board. Have conversations where, like you said, you agree or disagree, but you guys always keep it cordial and professional. Because it's just hard to pull the trigger sometimes on certain things where it's like, do we want to do this? And it's like, you have a split second to make that decision. That would be the big thing. And just be a friend, really. And I know that you are that to him. All the assistants that we've had, I call them friends, and we spend a lot of time with those people. And so it's very important to cultivate that relationship. It's having them over, it's going out to dinners, it's constantly on a text stream with the staff. It's just being available. I know you have been that for him. He's told me, how valuable you're at, and he supports you, and that's how you know it's genuine love. Whether you're here with him or not, it doesn't matter to him. He wants what's best for you. So like he told me the other day, I talked to him about the G League and this and that. And that's important, because at the end of the day, you want somebody that just F's with you, regardless of whatever the situation is. And that's what a great assistant coach does. They're down for you, and then vice versa. I've had several of my assistants go on to coach at their own schools. I pride myself on that. Sarah Giles has one of the best programs in the entire section at Los Gatos. Bobby Williams is over at Lee. We've had a lot of coaches in Top Flight, go coach college. Koopa's coaching an 8th grade basketball team, and then the next year he's coaching at San Jose State, because he was coaching that Wojcik's son during that time. And ironically, now he's there. And then, so Jamon Osby, who is to coach at Los Gatos and is an assistant at Bellarmine. Alex, who coached in Top Flight for a number of years, and now he's running his own program at Bellarmine. So genuinely being happy for somebody else's success, because people come into your life for 4 different reasons: to add, subtract, multiply, or divide. And the only thing that I want to do, and the only thing I want people, is to add and multiply to my life. And both of you guys are doing that for each other, and that's special. And all the assistants that we have on our staff, the same way. They're adding and multiplying in a lot of different ways. And that's really all you can ask for. And like our whole staff last year was all VC alumni. Eshoff,
that's right. That's crazy,
Ashley,
man.
Levon, and Miles.
Which
is wild. I'm the only one that didn't graduate from VC, which I don't know what to say about that.
Let that be what it is. No, it's funny you're talking about yeah, just kind of the love between coaches and stuff like that. And it's like, I think one thing I will say, it's so funny, like especially as male coaches, man, we use that word so little. And like I had my coach in college, like always talked about like loving each other. And like that was such a big thing, and servanthood and all that stuff. But it's like, that was like, I think when I realized that with Colin, of like how real it was like, this guy's like literally getting me interviews to leave.
Right.
Like he's literally helping me find another job to leave him.
I know.
And it's like, part of me was like, do you want to get rid of me? Like, am I doing something wrong here? But like, actually it's like, yeah, no, dude, like he's legitimately looking for the best thing for me. Like not just our kids, not just our athletes and all that stuff, but like he's legitimately watching out for me. And I was like, that is like the realest thing that I think you can do for someone, man. It's like, you're literally saying like, no, I want you to go do something else, like, and for the right reason too. It's so huge.
No, he doesn't want to lose you, but you know, you're talented, dude.
Yeah,
like you have,
I appreciate that.
You have what it takes to be anywhere that you want.
Yeah.
And you're at an age that you can do that. Yeah. And like if we're in that position, how would we how would we feel about the person that is like gatekeeping us from going on to greatness? And so, you know, we just have to value the time that you have with whoever you have it with at that time. You know, when my mom passed, you know, earlier this year, it's like I can think about her not being there, or I can really think about 40 years of her actually being there and being present, and all those fond memories. And in the beginning, you are thinking about the loss, but now I just look at it with a grateful heart, because I had so much time with her, and I value each one of those moments, and that's where we're at too. Like if Eshoff, he doesn't want to be a head coach, but if he did, like and same thing with Ashley. She wants to be a head coach someday. I'm okay. This is what a head coach does. And you have to give people the opportunity to leave the nest if that's what God's will is for them, you know, and everybody has different goals and ambitions, and you would be a bad person to try to hold somebody back from what is their destiny, you know. And then, you know, we don't want any resentment. Like, no, dude, he's gonna hug you and he's gonna be sad for you to leave, but you know, as long as you're there, he's gonna cherish those moments. And the one thing I will say about him is like, he is so relational. Like one of the most relational people that I know. Anytime we go out, and we see people, and he's just got so many connections, and so many great relationships, and everybody that I've come into contact with him, because our kids are very close. We vacation together without the kids and stuff like that. Everybody that's come in contact, that I've come in contact with him, is always a good person. I haven't met any bad people. And that obviously says a lot about him and how he runs his program. And I'm in there when you guys, because we share the same office, and I see you in there during the season a lot more. But those conversations with the kids, still with the seniors that are graduating now, which can't do anything for him on the court anymore. But that relationship means enough to him to be able to actually still cultivate that. And regardless if you leave, and that's one of the best things for me as a coach, when I get a text, coach, can I come back to the gym, and and I just recently got a couple parent texts out of nowhere, just say, hey coach, appreciate what you did for my daughter, and it's like, man, those are the things that really, that's the reason why we do it.
Absolutely.
It's the reason why we do it.
Well, it's not, I don't think it's, especially where we're at, definitely not for the pay, man. It's definitely, you're doing it for basketball. I love basketball. And then helping serving kids, man. That's
for sure.
Biggest deal, trying to put them in places to be successful and better people.
We're already hour 28. How can everybody get a hold of you, follow you, all the stuff that you got going on? You have an apparel line too. I saw that. Is that? No,
that's like you can definitely purchase off of there. I'll get a little kickback, but that is through somebody else. So at Basic B-Ball, I think everywhere, Basic BBALL _, and that's YouTube, X, and Instagram. Those are the biggest ones.
Nice. Coach V, thank you for joining the program. This, if you haven't heard of before, is our outro.
Thank you for listening to the Beyond the Buckets podcast. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and share the show with your friends. And until next time, take care.